There are plenty of videos on the internet on how to weld, so I'm not going to spare you with that, and I'm a terrible welder. But I'm here with Casey Johnson, and we're going to give you some tips on what to do before you weld. Welcome back to the garage, the place where we are turning your Bronco into your dream Bronco. If this is your first time here, I would love to have you subscribe. I'm always putting out how-to videos for the weekend mechanic and doing the Bronco entertainment for the Bronco community. Today what we're talking about is the things that you need to do before you weld. I'm here with Casey Johnson. He is the owner of Iron Oak Industries. Casey makes incredible high-class furniture. And by high class, what I mean is none of you can probably afford it. But what I'm gonna do is I'll put some links to his website and put a couple pictures and stuff like that so you can see the quality of what he does. But Casey's a friend of mine, and he begrudgingly came to the garage to help me out today. Casey, it's so good to have you. Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here. Thanks, John.
So what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about the things that you need to do before you start welding. So let's get into it. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is metal prep. And metal prep is a super important part of welding. Casey, tell me why metal prep is so important.
Any foreign matter that gets in there will cause pitting, it'll cause blowout, it'll cause these things to happen in your weld that make it weak.
So with this stuff right here, what would be, is there some solvents that would help clean this up? Should you take a flap disc to it?
My choice is the good old flap disc. So you can pick these up anywhere. These are just pieces of sandpaper that are stacked together. As they wear down, it creates new pieces of sandpaper, so there's new grit that comes out. So these will work all the way until they're down to nothing. We're really gonna try to scratch the face of this metal right down to bare, shiny metal. We're gonna go ahead and take the surface rust off this with the flap disc that we talked about and get this down to bare metal. So what we've done here is prep this and gotten this down to nice shiny metal, as you can see. So there's just going to be very little impurity there for us to get inside of our weld, and we're ready to clamp this up, make some adjustments on our welding machine, and start tacking this together as a practice. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to get this machine dialed in. We're trying to set it up. It's not my machine. I'm coming into John's shop using his, so I'm having to adjust some of the settings a little bit and get things kind of dialed in to where I'm comfortable with them. This material is a little thick compared to what we're going to be working on, but it still gives me a good idea and a good feel for the machine. This is a true butt joint. This is one of the harder welds because you have nothing behind it or below it that's dissipating any of the heat. This one, you get too hot, she's gone. You're gonna blow right out and you're gonna have a big old hole. It's all about dialing your welder in and getting it set at just the right temperature, just the right amperage to where you're burning right. So this is a great example of what you wanna see. We want to be able to see this fused all the way through. You can see the line up here, we're a little bit cold. This is just right. We've got that metal fused all the way through. So let's flip it over and weld some more. Unfortunately, I'm not blowing through, so I think what I'm gonna do is turn up the welder a little bit. Let's go ahead and blow out. Hopefully we can catch on film. There's some of our beautiful blowout. I'm gonna turn the welder way up on this, but you can see it actually blew out behind me. But this right here is why we practice on the first piece and again on this second piece, to kind of get exactly our similar conditions to what we're working with, get it dialed in, and then we have our best odds when we get over to our final piece. So just want to take a second to talk about some of the safety gear I'm wearing. Careful what kind of t-shirts or undershirts you're wearing. A nice cotton long shirt, Wrangler Carhartt shirts are great to just kind of keep some of the splatter away from your skin, keep you from burning up too bad. 10,000 degrees right in front of your face, you want to get your skin protected. So I wear a denim shirt. A lot of guys will go to full leathers. Gloves are a big thing, a nice pair of leather gloves. So if you're doing some heavy welding, definitely get some heavier gloves. If you're doing some lightweight stuff, I stick with just some lighter gauge leather gloves. These are enough. I always wear a welding cap. You can pick these up online, pick these up at a welding shop. As you're welding, laying up underneath your Bronco, your ears seem to magnetically attract the little splatter balls that come off of that welding gear. And a lot of guys, if you're welding sideways, will take these flaps and just cover their ear, protect their ear, either direction you're working. Just a nice snug fit, keeps your hair from catching on fire. All sorts of good things about these welding hats. There's all sorts of types of welding hood, from cheap to expensive. 30, 40 bucks, you're gonna get a regular hood that's not auto darkening. This is an auto darkening helmet, so it senses the UV light coming off the welder, so as soon as I pull the trigger, it goes dark. Good helmet is quite an investment, but well worth the money if you feel like you're gonna be doing this a little time. This dude's $250 to $300, they go all the way up into thousands. So those are some of the things that I'm going to talk about for safety on welding. Now let's, we've got our welder set up, we're practiced, let's go put a panel in.
All right, so what we're working on today is we are filling in right here along this patch panel. So a lot of you guys know that on the bed of your Bronco, there is so much rust that comes in here. And so one of the areas that was really bad for me was this area right here behind the wheel well, behind the passenger seat. And so what I did was I actually cut a piece of metal out of this that was pretty rusted out, and put a new piece here. I don't know what this piece is called. And then put a new, just cut a piece to fit right back here. So I've done some tack welding in it, but what happened was I kept burning through. And so this is the reason that I called Casey, is I was like, dude, I keep burning through this, please help me out. And so he was like, all right, let me come over, let me help you. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna weld in some of these gaps. And I'm gonna have Casey weld in a few, and then I'm gonna weld in a few, and I'm gonna allow him to kind of talk through. I'm gonna have him talk through just kind of the steps and the things that he's seeing me do wrong, and hopefully that'll help some of you guys. So let's get the welder set up and let's get going.
One of the other safety precautions before we start welding on the body of the Bronco, we want to disconnect our battery. There's a slight chance as we ground out to the body that it can travel back through our battery and cause some problems with that. So real quick, we're just taking a terminal off our battery, disconnecting it, and we should be all set. All right, so we're working on this little panel. I want to talk about a couple things we want to start on before we even think about pulling the trigger on the welder. First thing, we need to ground out the welder against this metal. We want to get it as close as we feasibly can to this area. If we grounded this on the front bumper per se, there's a chance that it could run through any of our shock mounts, or potentially even the engine, or the engine motor mounts, things like that, that will actually, the ground will arc through any of those bearing surfaces and cause them to run or grind a little bit on those things. So looking at it here, we don't have a great place to connect our ground. I'm gonna go ahead and snap to one of the seat bolts here. A little risky, you hate to do that too often, but I'm not too worried about it in this case. We're not running enough current through to arc anything on the bolt. So we're gonna set here and see if we have enough ground to be able to start our welding. Looks like we do. So what John's done here is he's cut in this panel real well. So we've got pretty small gaps around all this, which is what we're looking for. If you have really big gaps, you kind of want to try again on your test piece. But he's already got this set up. Talk a little bit about trying to replace a flat panel like this. Typically, if I'm replacing a panel like this, I'll cut the panel piece first, bigger than any of my rust. And then what I'll do is scribe that around the piece that I want to cut out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working some of these in and get a feel for it, see how it goes. As we're throwing a lot of heat into it right now, it's gonna have a lot of propensity to want to warp. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab a couple of wet rags, cold water, and we're gonna stack them up against the metal here to try to pull or dissipate some of the heat out. The other thing is, that's about as far as I'd ever weld. An inch, inch and a half, maybe 2 inches. I'd skip to another section, come back. We don't ever want to go ahead and do a 12-inch weld. You can see right here we have a few spots that we didn't quite get welded up, so this identifies and highlights them to where we can go back now and go ahead and touch and fill those spots up. First thing is you want to get your heat onto the new metal and stay away from your old metal.
Okay.
Assume your old metal is rusty and thin.
Okay.
Favor away from you instead of favoring into you. And I'm saying away from you because that's where the new metal is.
Yeah.
You're welding down like this.
Yeah.
You kind of want to tip your angle. Really, you want to be 15 degrees from it. It doesn't matter if you're behind, side, or away from it this way, but you want to be about 15 to 25, 30 degrees tops.
I'm like
not down
45.
60.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Move faster.
Move faster?
Exaggerate the front move. Don't worry about it. You'll clean it up later, but exaggerate and come. Feel like you're coming an inch. You'll only be coming a ½ inch, but feel like you're coming way out of it, swinging, and then coming back into it. Pause, slow down. Remember to come all the way back, but exaggerate it forward. You're okay, don't worry about it. This is you're coming into the hardest type of welding right here, and then you don't want to like, Move faster. Look at that, you didn't even blow through, huh?
Hey!
Hey!
Alright, so you can see that I blew through a couple times there, but through Casey's wise counsel, I got that one and almost got that one. I blew through just a little bit right there at the top. Alright, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Casey, thank you so much for being here, man.
Appreciate it.
So appreciate it. Hope these tips were helpful. It was kind of more of a how to weld video than just the tips on welding, but seriously, Casey is a fantastic welder and builder, makes some incredible furniture, so check the link below and take a look at some of the stuff that he's done. Thank you so much. You guys have a good one. I'll see you next time.
See you next time.